What is going on, everybody? It's the Front, and we're here for AEW TNT review for November the 11th, 2020. We are on our way to what is going to be the biggest episode of TV in the history, as we were going to have Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley announced for December the 2nd. Of course, they weren't going to wait for the February pay-per-view. That's way, way too far away. Now, here's my thinking about this. They put it on December 2nd. Jon Moxley loses the title to Kenny Omega, most likely. Jon leaves the United States that night, goes over to Japan, does a 2-week quarantine, and then wrestles for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and defends his U.S. title and possibly loses it to Kenta, whoever is going to be the number one contender going into Wrestle Kingdom. So maybe this is a way for them to get the title off of Jon Moxley onto Kenny Omega. Jon leaves for about a month, and he comes back at the end of January. So that would be a great way. We also had a return of the bastard, Pac. He was the final thing we saw, was him coming back, confronting Eddie Kingston, who has tried to sow the seeds of dissent between the Lucha Bros, and how he is not happy that this guy took his partners away. Also, we had a bloody, brutal, violent, and fun bunkhouse match, and a lot more. Now, this is, I guess, a new era of AEW. We're a year in, and this is a new era because they used the same theme music, but the intro was different, the graphics are brand new, they're updated. They look like we're going into a new set of AEW that is going to be better than ever. Team Taz comes out, he hypes up Brian Cage's match against Matt Sydal, says he's distracted though as the new TNT champion. Darby Allin sits way up in the stands with his championship. Taz tells Allin the last time they saw him, he was knocked out was laid out over his car. So he better not come anywhere near the ring tonight. He continues then that if he talks with Cody, if he sees Cody and Cody comes into contact with them, they will do the same thing to him. Taz hypes match again. It's him again. Someone who is respected in the locker room around the world. Taz says Cage is no joke, Matt Sydal is no joke, and let's get this match going. So, the very first match, FTW champion non-title match, Brian Cage versus Matt Sydal. And yes, Matt Sydal is no joke, Brian Cage is no joke. This was a fantastic opener to AEW's show this week. Matt Sydal did more, like Brian Cage tried to go into his wheelhouse, into Matt Sydal's wheelhouse, and that he paid for that by eating a powerbomb. There was many times where it looked like Matt Sydal might get the actual win over Brian Cage, and they did talk about Darby Allin being up in the stands, and the fact that Darby Allin his jacket was modified. Because if you look at him when they showed him, it looks like there's spikes everywhere on his jacket, but it's actually thumbtacks. Yes, I don't know who or what decided to do this. I guess it was so people can't attack him from behind, because if you run up to Darby Allin and you try and clothesline him, your arms hitting thumbtacks. So I guess that's smart on him, and it will come into play later on. More reversals, roundhouse kick by Sydal, but takes a huge lariat that sends him straight to the mat. Cage looks for the drill claw, reversed into a pin in a very close 3. Sydal goes up top, looks for the senton, is caught in midair. Drill claw, 1, 2, 3. Brian Cage is your winner. Post-match, Mickey Starks takes the mic and says both he and Cage are officially ranked. So he wants that TNT champion. Says anyone who gets in their way is going to get put down. So that is all we saw for that portion of this. Cody comes out. He congratulates Darby Allin on his title win. He says, me and the Enforcer have come to a conclusion that we're not going to be asking for a rematch right now. There is another loss that I would like to expunge and would like to get payback on, and that is MJF. And out comes this woman it's this dark-skinned woman with silver hair. I don't know who the fuck she is, but her name apparently is Jade Cargill. She approaches him and he asks, can he help her? She takes the microphone and says, you can. Can you? Introduces herself as the total package. Says she's been standing at ringside week after week, studying her competition and even Cody Rhodes. Jade says Cody calls himself the Giant Killer, but what does he know about that? There's nothing giant about him. And then you hear the crowd go, whoa! You know, she's calling him, he said he has a small dick, you know, all that shit. This woman, by the way, has kind of a speech impediment. It sounded like she didn't sound like she had the best speech. She says that she knows a giant and Cody's words just wake him up. So the next time Cody says something, you better keep that shit to yourself. She heads up on the stage and gives him the crap on getting his last name, but he doesn't take the balls to go by one name. I don't know, again, who the fuck this is. I guess she's been at ringside for the last few months. No idea. She hasn't been on Dark. She hasn't been used at all, so I don't know who the fuck she is. She says that Giant has one name, and he's a real star. And then she says, Shaq. And I'm like, really? I know if you watched BTE on Monday, you would have seen that Shaquille O'Neal was backstage at Full Gear, which he is a big wrestling fan. He was in the Andre Giant Memorial Battle Royal a couple years ago. He was rumored to have a match at WrestleMania, I believe it was, or SummerSlam against The Big Show, which never came to happen. Thank goodness. Do I want to see him do anything wrestling-wise? No. Brandy walks out, and she is all in bitch mode right now. She didn't appreciate what Jade had to say and tells her to never talk to him like that again. Tells her to bounce up here and don't come back unless she sends for her. Bitch, get your ass out of here. Goes to walk away, and Jade just gives her a pat on the backside. Jerry Lynn comes out to keep them separated. Cody is looking on, and then Brian Cage from behind gives him a powerbomb. Stark comes out to the ring. Allen comes to the ring and uses his thumbtack jacket to clear Starks. Cody beats up Cage. Cage is in the corner now. Allen, this had to hurt because Allen has, like I said, he has the thumbtacks all over his jacket. Is in the corner on the opposite side, runs straight into him, turning back and hitting his back into Brian Cage's chest. Holy shit, that had to hurt. I'm sorry. Taking thumbtacks to the back. Whoa, buddy. Whew. So, that was that. Backstage, Alex Marvez talks with AEW champion Jon Moxley about Kenny Omega being the next in line. Moxley says there's a big challenge ahead of him. He danced around with Omega before, and Moxley won, beating him again. But we gotta remember, and Omega brings this up later, that was an unsanctioned false lights out match last year at Full Gear. That was the main event. That wasn't a main event, if you know what I mean. And even Jon Moxley, I remember complaining about this last year, that even with this match happening, it's going to be a lights out match last year, it's not going to count on the record book. So no. In the official AEW records, even though Jon Moxley won the lights out match, he doesn't have an official win over Kenny Omega. So they are 0-0. Kenny Omega does mention that later in his talk with Alex Marvez. On December 2nd, it will be World Champion Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega on TV. So, there we go. December 2nd. That is going to be the biggest night of the year for AEW. The biggest match in TNT history. Yes, I'm saying that. The biggest match in TNT history. Bigger than Goldberg versus Hollywood Hogan. Bigger than David Arquette versus anybody. Bigger than any other match in WCW or the AEW history on TNT. This is going to be the biggest match ever. Natural Night Nurse versus the Butcher and the Blade with the Bunny in a bunkhouse match. You know what a bunkhouse match is? It's a no disqualification match, except you come as you're dressed and you fight for your life. No disqualification, no count out, no rules. The only rule is pinfall submission inside the ring. Now, Tony Schiavone then mentioned how this is you come as you're dressed, you come as you are. Yet Dustin Rhodes still found time to paint half of his face. If there was going to be a time for him to wrestle without face paint on in AEW once, it would have been this match. Just saying. That's just a gripe on me. So these four guys beat the hell out of each other. Guitar shot the QT Marshall, busted him open. The blade got open. I don't even know how the blade got busted open. I think it was doing a picture-in-picture. You had a bulldog from Dustin to the Butcher after he got sprayed with a fire extinguisher by QT Marshall into a box, into it looked like a wooden box. Of course, there was a mat in there for them to catch their fall. You had chains, you had ladders, you had everything you could think of, bleeding all over the place. I think the only one who didn't bleed was the Butcher. But Butcher wrapped his fist with the chain, misses. QT hits a diamond cutter on the Butcher, rolls out to the floor. Blade with a low blow on QT. Bunny brings up QT. Blade has a chair, goes to hit QT. He moves and he almost hits the Bunny. Now, this we've seen before. Bunny's sitting on the top, standing on the apron. There's a table right below her. She came up. She must go down. So the Blade turns around. Big punch by QT Marshall. He backs up into the Bunny. She falls over, and you hear JR say, "There goes that Jezebel." Good old fashion pop right there. Dustin hits Blade with a cowbell. Diamond cutter by QT. 1, 2, 3. And the Natural Nightmares get the win. So, good for them. That is awesome to see that QT Marshall is getting, they could have had Dustin win the match. That would have been whatever. But no, they gave the pin to QT Marshall. They're doing what they can, and it's, I like this Natural Nightmares thing. I know, when Allie was there and she was being the person in the middle, she was looking to break them apart and came very close. And then they just dropped it and brought her back to the family where she should have been the entire time. So, yeah. Where does this go for the Butcher and the Blade and the Natural Nightmares? No idea for 3 of them, even though the Blade will be facing Pac next week, as we found out later on. Video package showing the Elite Deletion rivalry between Sammy Guevara and Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy says he actually gained a lot of respect for Sammy after everything they went through. And the fact that, yes, he may have lost this feud, he might have hurt him at All Out. But Sammy hopes that Sammy doesn't squander this, and he is giving him after this wild feud, and he will be better for it. So, Sammy Guevara is going to be a big star. We'll just have to wait to see how far this goes. It is time for the introduction of MJF and Wardlow into the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho comes out first, bringing MJF in. Jericho says before that, he brings out the OG members, Jake Hager, Santana, and Ortiz. Sammy is not there. He asks him where he's at. They we don't know. He knows it's out. Sammy's out of the hospital, but the show must go on. He introduces MJF and Wardlow. MJF starts up that he's been in the industry for 5 long years. And fucking, as soon as he said that, Tony Schiavone's like, just shut up, man. You could just see that MJF was riling the commentating team up. And was given $1 million from his dad so he could make it work. MJF says he had a lot of pressure that nobody would understand, and that created the diamond he is today. MJF then wants to do a poem, and he thinks Ortiz and Santana will really enjoy. He ends up doing the lyrics from All Me by Drake. Good fucking grief. It does piss off Ortiz. Which, by the way, yeah. Given $1 million to go out being a professional wrestler, that stuff wouldn't, it might last you a year. But that, if you don't, I'm just gonna be honest, I don't think $1 million, if you want to be a wrestler who, travels all over the world, all over the United States, all over the world, that shit's not gonna last you very long. I can tell you that right now. Those flights do get expensive. And $1 million would go by fast. Ortiz calls him out, and Jericho says that MJF shouldn't be in the group. Jericho says it's on him. He's made the stipulation. He beat me. So with these additions, it will make the stable even stronger. He tells Ortiz he will make it work. MJF says, I don't even know who Drake is, Ortiz. He started from the bottom, now he's here. MJF then says that they're not here just for an introduction, but they're here for Jericho's 50th birthday. Balloons and confetti rain down the group and says, everybody, they're going to Las Vegas next week. And it's on MJF. He hopes everybody's happy. He sings, "Happy birthday to Jericho. Looks like the Inner Circle is taking over Las Vegas next week." Could we not just take TNT? Can we not take the show to Vegas for 1 week? 1 week? Could we go to a place in Vegas to have this show? Just 1 week to change it up. I would love to see somewhere else for 1 week. I don't even care if it was outside in the football arena. So we see a video package of FTR at Full Gear against the Young Bucks. Backstage, Alex Marvez looking a little like skittish, not wanting to do this interview after what happened last time. He's a bit nervous after getting super kicked by them. Last week, he asked the champions what's next, and Nick says it's the biggest accomplishment of the career, but he thinks the fans will want to see a rematch. Match apologizes for kicking Marvez, but says they are looking for fresh opponents. Matt then mentions that a new up-and-coming tag team actually made a challenge to them on social media, and their names are Top Flight. And said that match will be happening next week, but Matt's ankle wasn't cleared by doctors for this week. They were supposed to have a match tonight. The ankle wasn't cleared, which Matt, if you watch BT on Monday, listed out a long list of injuries on it just from his leg. The ankle, his MCL, his ACL, all of these freaking injuries. That's this dude is probably going to have to wrap up his career very soon because his one leg is going to be nothing but nothing in a couple years. So Top Flight, which we saw last night on Dark if you watched it, and now they're going up against Matt and Nick Jackson. And now it makes sense why they had a winning effort last night on Dark. Sean Spears with Tully Blanchard versus Scorpio Sky. This match has been brewing for a while because Sean Spears was upset that when he went to go do more damage on the Matt Sydal, Scorpio Sky butted in on his business. So this was an okay match, nothing special here. The biggest thing is Tully Blanchard kept trying to get the slug into Sean Spears' hand without the referee or Scorpio Sky seeing it. He does leave one in the face where Sean Spears could see it. He goes to toss another one in. Scorpio Sky catches that one, tosses it away. Referee's distracted. Punch to the face. 1, 2, 3. Sean Spears is your winner. And before the referee could check his glove, he gets the slug put into his tights. So that is that. Backstage, Dasha attempts to get a hold of Kenny Omega, but says he ran off. He couldn't get a reason as to why he left. We then see Alex Marvez catching up to Omega outside the venue. Marvez brings up the title match is now official. Moxley, Omega says now he has to step up to the position of being out of the position of being an afterthought to now being in the spotlight. He says Moxley has what he wants, and he has taken Omega's spot as being the face of the company. He says he heard the backstage chatter, "Where's the cleaner?" Omega thinks he's proven with the recent tournament that he's never left. He's just ready to resume the role in the company, and says they actually haven't had a one-on-one match with regular rules, and this is going to be a tough match for them. But it's going to be he expects to win. There's no match between them because the first one was unsanctioned, as I mentioned earlier, and he had to fight the catch, so he had to leave. Tay Conti with Anna Jay versus Red Velvet with Brandy Rose. They did mention how Red Velvet was signed by AEW. I must have missed them putting that out on social media because they like putting out on social media when they sign somebody. But she, of course, has been associated with Brandy Rhodes since Brandy Rhodes came and made the save for her a couple weeks ago. And now she's going up against Tay Conti. Of course, this match here just seems to feel like a backdrop to what they want to do with Brandy Rhodes and Anna Jay. Tay Conti, towards the end of the match, Anna Jay throws in a chair and tells her to use it. Use the chair, you need to use the chair. She kicks it away. Velvet almost gets the win. Leg lariat by Velvet, cover 2. Velvet with a kick, tried for a running kick, misses. Conti with a big pump kick to the face. Gory special into a knee to the face, cover 1, 2, 3. Post-match, Jay isn't happy with Conti, but she got the win without having to cheat. Conti looks for a hug and gets one from her friend. Dark Order is looking on from the tunnel on the stage. I wonder what they're going to be doing with this, how long they're going to be delaying this. Is it going to be, 1, Anna Jay gets Tay Conti to join the Dark Order, or 2, Tay Conti gets Anna Jay out of the Dark Order? I'm not sure. I like the fact that Anna Jay is in the Dark Order. She's been doing a lot more. When they first signed her, she had like maybe a match or two, and then she lost to Abaddon after being gone for months. And then they put her in the Dark Order, and she's really done a lot better since. Backstage, Inner Circles with Alex Marvez going on about going to Las Vegas. Sammy finally shows up and says he got MJF's email saying go to the beach. MJF says no. He said to be here in a second email. MJF asked the others if they got the second email, and they said they did. Most of the group heads off. MJF tells Sammy he really did send the two. Here's your ticket. We're going to Vegas. Sammy, looking at that ticket, just all pissed off, and says, I didn't get that second email, and he walks away. We're leading to MJF versus Sammy Guevara, probably on that same episode that we're going to get Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega. They got to have more matches. Well, we got a couple weeks to go. Last Saturday, Big Best Friends and Orange Cassidy talked with Kip Sabian. Mira Sabian wanted an apology and ended up slapping MJF. Next week, Orange Cassidy will take on Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford. The Inner Circle slays Las Vegas. Young Bucks versus Top Flight. Cody and Darby Allin versus Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. And after this next match, we find out it's going to be Pac versus The Blade in Pac's first match back in several months since this whole scandemic started. So Eddie Kingston comes out on the stage and says, I quit at Full Gear, and says, unlike most of the fans who quit and stop wrestling, Kingston will never stop, and he will become world champion someday. Switches gears to the main event about Penta LZM and Rey Fenix. Going to see two of the best luchadors in the world going one-on-one tonight. This was a fantastic match. Great match to open the show, great match to end the show. Obviously, when you listen to commentary and Eddie Kingston, he had his favorite, of course, it is his best friend, Pentagon Jr. I am not going to continue to sit there and try and go between Pentagon Jr. and Penta LZM. I'm just not going to do it, so it's going to be Pentagon Jr. whenever the fuck I feel like it. But this was a heck of a match. Guys, like trading like lucha spots, trading blows. Pentagon takes the mask of Rey Fenix, rips it up so you can see partial his head. Apparently, Rey Fenix is bald. I don't know if he's naturally bald or if he just shaves his head off so he can keep the mask on. Later on in the match, Rey Fenix takes the mask of Pentagon and rips it in half. You can actually see his face. If it wasn't for the face paint on the lower part of his face, you would probably have a clear look of what Pentagon Jr. looks like. Now, if this was in Mexico, Pentagon Jr. would have lost this match by disqualification as soon as he ripped out his brother's mask, because it's a disgrace in Mexico to remove a mask. If you remove a mask during a match, it's a disqualification in Mexico. So they both do that. Of course, when Phoenix does it, Eddie Kingston's like, oh, they should disqualify Phoenix. What the hell? This is bullshit. Now, these guys were slapping each other. They were beating the fuck out of each other. It was getting towards the end of the match, it was getting fucking disturbing and very hard to watch. Phoenix goes on top, sent on cover 2. They make their way to the apron. Penta hits a super kick, then it hits a package power driver onto the apron. Referee checking on Phoenix. Phoenix is back up, but Penta leaps off the apron and hits a Yoshi Tonic or a Canadian Destroyer. Penta sends Phoenix in the ring, hits another package power driver. 1, 2, 3. He wins the match. After the match, Eddie Kingston cuts on the mic and makes fun of the fight forever, and this is awesome chants. Says Penta is his best friend, showed his brother his boss, tells him he's the best, and boots Phoenix out of the floor. Says he's proud of Penta and tells him he doesn't need that dead weight like Phoenix. So all of a sudden, Pac's music hits. Of course, he hasn't been around since March. Looks beyond mad. He's not mad. He is pissed. He is Pissed. Pissed. You think I've been gone forever? You made a very big mistake, he says. I wish I could do his accent. Rounds in the ring, but a ton of referees and officials get between them. The two jaw a bit. Commentator says Pac will face Blade next week on TV. The reason they cap between them two mostly is because Eddie Kingston has not been cleared to compete. But Pac is back. As we know, right before this pandemic hits and we had to do all these shutdowns and everything, which are total bullshit, everyone's gonna get it, and majority of the people are gonna live through it. Get over it. Anyway, Pac went back to England because that's where he stays. He actually lives in England. And he was gone. They had Death Triangle with Pac and the Lucha Bros right before all this hit. And it looked like we weren't going to have anything to do with that anymore. What were they going to do? And here we go. Pac is going to go through the Blade, then probably the Butcher, and the other ones, probably to get to Eddie Kingston. So, great to see Pac back. I'm sure we'll see Pac versus Eddie Kingston probably on that December 2nd show. I could see Sammy Guevara versus MJF on that show. That's your that's 3 matches they could do right there. And maybe Darby Allin defends the TNT Championship on that show. But another great show. Nothing really was down in dumps for this week. Tay Conti and Red Velvet was a pretty decent women's match. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, they could have more than one women's match on the show. They could, or they could put that all on Dark. You want to see multiple women's matches, you got to turn into AEW Dark, where it happens a lot more. There's like 2 to 3 women's matches a week. But AEW is just firing on all cylinders. I know the ratings is probably going to still be down a little bit because the election shit's still going on. The election shit show is still going on. So that's going to be distracting people for a while. We probably won't see any higher ratings for AEW, like high ratings again in AEW till after the inauguration day for whoever it's going to be. But that is your AEW review. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at the France Club. Fuck Twitter. Fuck them and everything else. Find me on Parler at the France Club. Find me on Instagram at the France Club. And find me on Twitch.tv at the France Club. And I'll see you guys Friday for SmackDown. Until then, my name's the France, and I'll see you guys later.